Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield and I'm a professional dance choreographer and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States, and we are going to be taking a look at the first challenge of Kingdom Legendary War. I have had the worst time trying to get this franchise of a show onto YouTube in any capacity. Road to Kingdom was a total bust, so we are giving it a try with Legendary War because I did notice some reactors were able to get some of their reactions onto YouTube, so we're gonna also try on this end. So if you see this on YouTube, we did it in some way, but I am excited to at least attempt to try to get these out because I really enjoyed this season. Yes, I did take a look at the full episodes as well, so I have a lot of refined feedback based off of what I had spoken about in these challenges throughout the show. Also keep in mind I am coming straight off of Road to Kingdom for this show, as well as a lot of my feedback is pertaining to things and elements that I had seen from previous challenges or from the full episode. So context may be a little bit different depending on where you watch this. So let's go ahead and get started. I've seen this one. We're gonna enjoy it from the Wonderland. Like, yo, this is freaking sick. Freaking sick, man. I still feel the exact same way that I felt the first time. Costuming on the dancers needed to be different, and it would have really helped. ATEEZ also took advantage of the usage of cameras. They did. Truly. That's how I feel about the boys. They know how to use it. Look at the fog. Really helps. Yep, and there we go. They've now rotated it. I understand this part of the lore from the new world. Let's go. Power of lighting. Do you see how this lighting is helping with it? Because notice there's a disconnect here because there's not an LED, but you have the lights. Come on! Dope. I know they're supposed to be like underwater creatures potentially, right? Dope. And something happened because he kicked him, right? Come on, with the water too. Come on. I'm gonna tell you right now, this should probably win first. If SF9 did not receive the same budget that everybody else did, just like what Reddit was saying, and here's the thing, I'm not believing that 100%, but here's the thing, Mnet ain't innocent to as far as I could throw them. You know what I mean? They ain't innocent in anything. So for me, ATEEZ, when it comes to the boys, like if we're going off of the ones that have like these really, really dope sets, the boys, ATEEZ, and Stray Kids, ATEEZ I think should take top spot out of the three. Here's why. When you look at how they structured their set, what happened is, I think this actually worked against Stray Kids. They started in that like enclosed environmental space first. What they could have done is set up on the outside and then made verse 2 go in the inside, because what ended up happening is they set up in the more emptier space. Does that make sense? And in the lighting, I tell you what, look, this entire time, the lighting was properly used and worked in their favor. Look at the environment that was set in this, right? And I also heard that they used their props from their canceled world tour. That's not called cheating. That's called a loophole. If it's not in the contract and it's not in the rules that you can't use props that you already have, then freaking use it. I would do the same thing. I've done that before. You know why? Because it's smarter, not harder. For me, if people are upset because they use props from their own tour, but it's not in the contract and it's not in the rules and it's any of those things, they can do that. They're allowed to do that. Right? And it's not their fault that Mnet dropped the ball on the other groups. Not their fault at all. Same with Stray Kids. Stray Kids is allowed to have that. If that was in the rules for them to have it, then that's what it is. Do you know what I mean? Now, do I think that it's fair for companies to spend more money when they are told a budget by Mnet and they go above and beyond that for the sake of winning? No, I don't agree with that. Now, is that what I think happened? I don't know, but I say that it would make sense why people are upset if certain groups were given a certain budget and others were given a bigger budget. That's not the group's fault. That's Mnet's fault, right? And if it got fixed moving forward, then that's great, fine and dandy. But I don't appreciate it when people blame the artists for something that's not their fault. Just like with the boys with the Danger set, I don't blame the boys for the fact there was plagiarized content in their set. Does that make sense? So going off of this, look at the lighting. What they technically have, if you take everything away, take the dancers, all they technically have in this beginning segment is this right here. But man, oh man, the strategy and how they chose to use that camera. That camera showed what it needed to show. It didn't show anything unnecessary. And that is the power of knowing how to use your camera work. So, and they also were live, so you can't combat that. But look, they set an entire scene and environment that matched the color grade of the lighting. That feels like we're on the ship. We're on a pirate ship, you know, because look, what they did is they made this the flooring of a ship. They didn't make it water, so it helped us know, okay, we're on a ship. Here's the stern, you know, so we understand that. And here, if you understand how a ship works, this goes into a different area. But if you go into verse 2, it doesn't technically go onto the ship, or maybe it does. But notice the coloring is different. This, I did say, and I still stand behind, it is a bit disconnected. I understand the intention now, but because going from here, they all move. Look, they used a blackout with a little bit of essence to create a really good transition. Other groups didn't do that. And so here, they drop it out. Really great usage of blue light. Or black light. Really dope. Love it. He goes combative. I'm assuming it's like these, like the underwater in the depths of the ocean. That kind of thing, right? Looks really cool. Love that. He goes through, and look, is it, I mean, it does feel like a completely different environment. It doesn't feel like we're on the ship. We did in the beginning, but they moved all that stuff out of the way, and they had fog that worked in their favor. Here, they have this big, huge apparatus thing. That thing's freaking dope. I love it. And that right there, they kick. You saw Stray Kids do it, but notice nobody responded after he kicked them. This is what I was talking about. Whenever you see something and you have a sense of familiarity behind the movement, this is what you're going to expect. If you're doing a kick for the sake of doing a kick and it doesn't really go in the music and there's nothing that happens out of it, then I don't know why. Maybe it's we're restrained and we're creating depth behind it in range. Probably that. But I love this here. They have the opposition, which is really nice. I appreciate that. All of this color grading still works really well. Look what's not not turned on, everybody. Those dumb square lights. They're using these lights. These lights really help create little peepholes like you're seeing on a ship. And it matches the overall essence here. You know what doesn't match that? These ugly square lights. Is that their fault? Not necessarily. It's no one's fault. It's no group's fault. I just think Mnet needs to switch those square lights out with something different, or figure out a way to get those covered up, or know how to film not those when they're not supposed to be seen. But that's just my own 2 cents on that. Because I tell you what, even in Stray Kids' set, they had all this stuff working for them. Those freaking square lights ruined that section for me in terms of environment. But what they did was super cool. Hitting it through, notice they have they're doing their symbol there. I really like that choice. But bringing it through, that helps make it appropriate the type of environment they want to keep. And there, they use the square lights to create a transition. They don't use it to set the environment. Oh, man. He grabs it. I'm glad he grabbed the sword. He takes a look. The color of the water has now changed to match the color that happened in the LEDs earlier. Now look. Now, is this lighting the best lighting? I don't know. I do appreciate the difference within it. It feels triumphant. Could they have gotten away with the lighting they did earlier? I personally think they could, but I understand they're in combat, so usage of the red makes sense. Usage of the guns is really cool. Love it. You still have this moving Kraken. You have the water, all of that. He goes, storyline, boom. So what they chose to do was very smart. If Stray Kids did the same format where they went outside and did their outside stuff first and then come in and do all of this, because all they have back here is one thing. This right here. B2B had a whole freaking forest back here. Do you know what I mean? You also have Stray Kids had a freaking psych ward back here. And then you had, you know what I mean? And so an Icon, I feel like, had the most underdeveloped set out of everybody, but I actually liked a lot of their choices they made and some of the gimmicks they chose to do. Here, if you really look at it, it's pretty scarce. But even when you see these dumb butt square lights, they're not a factor into the environment nearly as much. They're there. You actually care more so about that, and you have something furthering the story here. The camera's properly placed so you capture what you need to capture. But you could have very easily have been able to capture this without this angle. You could have done a different angle. Now look, we're right back into this essence and this ambiance here, and it doesn't feel empty. Why? Because they gave it an environment through the usage of LED screens. That is what you use them for. And so that, to me, this is one of the most, whoever was in charge of the movement direction for this, the props are one thing. They really, truly, if you're doing a true comparison on who had more props than what, the boys and Stray Kids had more props. I truly feel that. ATEEZ used their props the best out of everybody. And I will firmly stand behind that. I have SF9 I still got to look at. But if I'm being real, ATEEZ should be winning this challenge, in my humble opinion, based on how this is set up and how they use their props, how they use their lighting and their LED screens, and how they furthered and made a story. And part of that may stem from the fact that their entire entity as a group stems from a really intense lore where you can understand they're being pirates. Not only that, they also, they make it to where even if you don't know the lore, you get who they are. And if you are a fan, you feel appreciated and supported as a fan. Does that kind of make sense? So I'm coming to bat for ATEEZ on this, because I heard that people were not happy about the fact that ATEEZ had all this. They were not the only ones, for starters. And secondly, I truly believe they utilized everything very effectively. Truly. And I think Stray Kids did a freaking great job with what they had. I just think the format needed to flip-flop a little bit, and the lighting choices needed to be subtly different. Same with B2B, and their sets would have been so freaking captivating in the same scale. Like, honestly. And they loopholed it. They didn't cheat. So if people think that they cheated, I firmly disagree with you. They didn't. They firmly took advantage of the opportunity. Hey, we have these props. But if they were told they weren't allowed to use them and they used them, then they can get under fire for that. But I don't think that's the case at all. So it's Mnet's fault. We attack Mnet. We are a big force. And honestly, they sang live too. So I'm really proud of the fact they had this. This breakdown here too, notice with Icon and with Stray Kids, their breakdowns did have a subtle disconnect. Well, technically it was Stray Kids' first two. It had a disconnect. They had the usage of the crazy lights too. They also had, with Icon, they had the crazy lights as well. It felt like a club. It's about that camera, right? Here, they did a good job at least keeping it in the family of the colors that are used or they have used throughout the set. You know what I mean? And the breakdown too, they had a great usage of dancers and numbers to really help and it's very structured. The choreography is very appropriately structured, which is shocking coming out of my mouth knowing how much I tore into the choreography when I watched Wonderland the first time. So that's why I really enjoy this one more too, is because it actually redeems the song's choreography for me. And I'm glad they used this version. Boom, right here. Look, we still have that yellow coloring, and then you have more of a glitchy effect happening in the background, but it's still a storm. It feels more like a galactic storm than anything, right? They didn't have anything falling from the sky. They had fog, lots of fog, and they had little water spurts. Do you know what I mean? Boom, and they finished. Shh. We saw that with a with Monse. So I'm coming to bat for ATEEZ on this. I firmly believe they need to take top 2 or the top spot for this challenge, and if they don't, because of this, that, or the other, whatever. But this was fantastic in terms of when you actually look at it in comparison to other people who had just as much, actually more extravagant sets. They utilized it so effectively. I also think the boys utilized their set very effectively too. Stray Kids, theirs was super dope, really great choices. Some of the set pieces did not connect to me personally, and remember, I can't rely upon them telling me the concept in order for it to be clear to me. I did not know the pirate lore of ATEEZ when I watched this the first time. So we're not chalking it up to because of my awareness of their lore. I understand what they're doing more now, but I still stand behind the concept that they're doing. So we still have one more. We're gonna go ahead and take a watch.